Greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome back to episode 93 of the Snarp Fangle podcast. I'm your host, Jake Metzger. You're a young fellow who's taken his time not playing any video games, but listening to gaming podcasts while driving. And my co-host this week, returning once again into the Snarp Fangle universe. We've brought him back, folks. The guy who is the biggest fan of Ghost Recon Advanced Warfighter 2 and Bubsy 3D. Ladies and gentlemen, David Reed. David, how are we doing this fine day?
You know, I don't really appreciate that you're just putting out my secret love of Bubsy 3D for all the world.
Oh, you don't love
that was a thing just for me.
Yeah, well, I know you're a big fan of Monolith Productions, Bubsy 3D. You know what I mean? The guys who went on to make the Shadow of Mordor games. You know what I mean?
Wow, what an arc there.
What a journey. And speaking of journeys, for any and all inquiries, comments, and concerns, thoughts, and ideas, and who is your special someone who you would call your Steam machine, feel free to send them on over to snarpfanglepod@gmail.com. Or you can just text Jake. What? You don't like what's it called? The Aqua song, David. I am your candy man, except it's I am your Steam machine. Forgive my voice if it sounds a little froggy. I don't feel quite up to it today. But regardless, the show must go on. So David, today's topic is about who we like to call our Steam machine. No, I'm joking. But there's been a couple things I've been wanting to talk about regarding video games, and this is going to be more of a loose video games podcast, kind of like our bad gaming practices episode maybe a dozen or maybe a bunch of episodes ago. Can't remember how long it was. But I got a couple things I want to go over, and the first one is kind of this. Why don't I feel it anymore, David? The more I live my life, David, I've realized something. I have become more of an adult, more of a man, more of a lot of things in my life. And especially this year personally, this is just, by the way, preface as we get into this. This is Jake, not trying to turn this into a therapy session, but sharing his experience with video games in the year of 2025 where I've kind of drifted away from them. I want to know what you think, David, and how you deal with taking in quotes, a break from gaming or other things in general. I think basically the gist of it is this. Ever since I've started working a lot in 2 jobs or 3 or however many I'm working now, it seems like the more I do other things, the more responsibilities I have in this life, the less time there are for video games, which is a welcome thing, sure. But I still desire to play them. But when I get the chance, I don't have the steam in me anymore to play them. You know what I mean? You know, I don't want to, my valve has been released so much. Social battery with working hard, all that kind of thing. You can relate to this. I'm sure there's a lot of people out there who can relate to this. You desire to play, but when you finally get the chance, you're like, it's just too much work, man. I don't know why. It's easier to go on your phone or go do something else or watch a show or something. And I'm like, oh, I got an idea. I'm going to fold my laundry while I watch the show I want to catch up on. And then I just watch YouTube or a podcast or something. I go to like my comfort zone. Go to what I'm comfortable with. And with video games, it's like, especially like the last 6 months has been a struggle where I think it was our last one we did with Frankie about video games where I got done like 3 or 4 games at once and I finished them. And I was really proud. I'm like, yeah, God, I'm done. And then I'm like, I'll probably play like Clair Obscur and Doom the Dark Ages this fall, which recently came out around the time. And you know what? I'm just going to wait and play them in the fall. And I haven't even gotten to them. And I'm struggling to where I don't even want to play anything. I just don't have it in me. So I think it's just, I'm a busy guy. I have less free time. I don't know. What do you think, David? I mean, I know you're no longer in high school. You're a fresh 23 years old.
Oh, yeah.
And how do you deal with this as an adult? And where did the love go for video games?
So from what I'm hearing, it sounds like the thrill is gone, to quote the late, great B.B. King.
Yes, sir. The thrill is gone.
The thrill is gone,
Thrill
baby.
is gone, baby.
All right. So one thing is I kind of like, I mean, I've basically had the same thing for the past like 7, 8 years now, probably.
Hmm.
Is, I never stopped being interested in video games. I never stopped liking video games. It's just, you know, I don't have a whole lot of time to play them anymore.
Hmm.
And when I do have time, there's other things I want to do, or I just don't want to do anything.
Yeah.
Um, it's just it's just one of those things that I think is just a natural consequence of life, you know? At a certain point, you just start getting busy, and then it becomes less of a relaxation, like less relaxing and more of a chore to play video games because it takes a certain amount of attention to, you got to devote a certain amount of attention in order to play a game. Even a game that you can play mindlessly, like it's sometimes you're not even you don't even have enough in you where you could play a game that you could just play mindlessly, you
Hmm.
know? And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. It's normal, it's natural, and you know, it's one of those things as sometimes I get my gaming time in, sometimes I don't. And it's usually less than I maybe initially thought it would be when, I sit down and play a game I've been looking forward to playing. Like a good example of that would be Doom the Dark Ages. I played a little bit of that. Um I had Xbox Game Pass Ultimate for a month, the very last month before the price increase.
That's right.
And I used that time to play a little bit of Doom the Dark Ages and a little bit of Claire Obscure. And as much as I enjoyed both of those games, I didn't actually get in nearly as much time, log nearly as many hours as I, maybe thought I was going to.
Hmm.
Like, I think I got to like chapter, like,
I think you said like 3 or 4, or was it longer?
I think I got to like, it was like 5 or 6,
Nice.
maybe 7 or 8 of Doom the Dark Ages, and it's got like 20 or 30 chapters, something like that.
Dang.
So
It's a long game.
not very far through the game. And Claire Obscure, I don't even think I got an hour into that. Um, and it's just one of those things you got to deal with when you know, when you become an adult. I mean, there's being an adult and then there's being an adult where it's like life, stops treating you with kid gloves, so to speak, and the responsibilities start piling on and your time gets taken away from you. Just, I feel like it's natural for video games to kind of be the thing that falls by the wayside when we go through phases like that.
Yeah, I agree, and I think it's only just a phase, Mom. That's what I think. I'd surmise it too, but yeah, it's just interesting, especially the last year where I put a big focus on making the land computers. I think there's like 10 or 11 of them, just from collecting e-waste and random computer parts. Which, by the way, I'm really glad I did that last year because the price of RAM that just went up, like skyrocketed in the last 3 or 4 months is. I don't know if you've seen it, David, but it's crazy. All the RAM prices. Have you seen that at all?
I've heard something about that, yeah.
Yeah, so like for example, DDR5, which is like the newest version of RAM you can get for the newer uh, platforms and motherboards for AMD and Intel, a 16 gig kit of DDR5 RAM, which costs about the same as a DDR4 kit. So say 60, maybe $70, maybe 50 on sale. Pretty decent price. Well, Now that same kit is about $170. It's like, whoa, okay. That's like 150% markup. Like it's ridiculous.
Yeah.
So it's like it was last week where I was listening to videos and people were saying now's the time to buy it. Just buy it before it goes up anymore. And it was at like $120 at that point. And now it's like 170. I'm like, I'm not. It's priced out. I'm not gonna get it. So it's like I was like, I'm kind of glad I have a couple. I think it's third, fourth, and fifth. They're in sixth and seventh gen Intels in these random old office computers we've gathered up in the house with some graphics cards and Frankenstein builds and test beds and all this kind of things. So with all precariously hilarious names like Pixie Bleach and Lord Hoodbox and Omni Trump, just to name a few.
That reminds me of when I was younger and I was just like,
this is what Jake does with adult money, by the way.
I would just like make random profiles on like Halo just so that I didn't even play online. I just played split screen when I was younger, Occasionally I'd have a LAN party with somebody else, but like that was a rarity. So I just have all these crazy named profiles on there just so I could choose whichever random one I felt like playing at that moment.
I've been meaning to make one called Cheeto Fingers, but I haven't gotten there yet. Cheeto Fingers. You got killed by Cheeto Fingers. That's awesome, though. And that's another thing. Like, it started with the Xboxes, and then it moved to the computers. And now it's like, they can all run Halo decently. And maybe the finals, and that's about it. Like, we ain't going any more higher graphics. Actually, Arc Raiders, I was looking at how it performs. It's a very well-performing game in terms of, like, performance-wise and efficiency with different hardware. It's actually really well done. It's the
like
same
as far as optimization goes.
That's the word. Thank you. You're right. As far as in terms of optimization, it's like somebody was playing on a 1080 with just a decent build, and he was getting like, I think he was playing 1440p and got 60 frames. Like
nice.
decent. So
games like that seem to be kind of a rarity nowadays.
Yeah.
Like, especially with all the UE5 slop.
Yep. Yeah, and we'll get to that too. I want to talk about that in regards to Steam Machine. But before we get to that, back on the topic here, it's interesting. I bring it up because like I did have a lot of free time, and I poured a lot of free time into that. And just in the season of life, like we've talked about in the podcast, I think in this season, it's not the time for any of that. And I've been purchasing games on Steam every month, which I shouldn't be doing. But I'm like, oh, what? Octopath Traveler? Oh, it's like $17. Well, I gotta get it now for the Steam Deck, So it's like I'm still buying these games and I shouldn't be. But
Speaking of Octopath Traveler, yeah. I still have the soundtrack of that saved on YouTube.
Yeah,
from when you recommended it to me when I made that LAN party playlist.
Yeah, that's what's up. Yeah, that's one of the battle themes is actually on one of my Can't Stop Jake playlists on Spotify, where I'm like, I need motivation, Anyway, but yeah, the game looks. I played I think about 3 to 4 hours on Switch, and that game's awesome, dude. Like, I'm not even a JRPG guy, but like, and the amount of grinding you need to do, like, you play the first 3 hours, and then it's like the next big story part. It's going to take probably a good 2 to 3 more hours of grinding just to level up. It's like, oh, level 14, and then it's like level 60. And you're like, what the heck? Come on, guys. So anyway, I'm looking forward to playing that. But it's like, for me, I listened to Last Stand Media, like I've mentioned on the podcast before, and they do a bunch of gaming podcasts. And just listening to this and hearing the kind of glut of the industry kind of gives me pause at times. And when I mean glut, I mean the amount of video games that are releasing on all platforms like Steam and all the other providers as well, like PlayStation, Xbox, Switch. All these platforms have, every year, I think Steam has now like tens and thousands of games released every year, which most of them are just crap and slop. But
yeah,
there's a lot of good diamonds in all that garbage, but it takes time and effort to look for them. And it's like when you get to a point where the internet has amassed so much data and so many people are on it and so many things are happening, how do you sift through that? Well, actually, that's why AI is so big right now anyway. So, but I don't know. I just hear about this, and even the people who are playing games for a living have to say, there's just too much happening.
Yeah.
You know, I can't catch up with everything.
And that's kind of the thing too, is like the industry has gone on this weird path of just like crank out as many games as you possibly can, which, you know, leads to the situation we have now where it's just like most games that come out are just like so poorly optimized. And then if, you know, and the just so happens that Unreal Engine 5 is the most popular engine, and it seems to really, really suffer from not being properly optimized. So it's just like all these games are just like they seem so cobbled together, and it's like it doesn't have to be that way. Like, but you know, it's one of those things. It's like, you know, corporations, all they want to see is they want to see that that line on the chart go up, and they'll chase ever increasing profit margins at you know, by any means necessary. And it's just like, how much longer can the industry sustain that before we have like, I mean, we're already starting to see it, but it seems like the real crash hasn't happened yet because companies are still churning out games. So it makes me wonder, it's like, how much longer can the industry keep just churning out games at breakneck speed before we see another industry crash?
Yeah. And it's interesting too, because with the glut of so many things, a lot of things just get lost or are on to the next thing. Like Hollow Knight Silksong came out this year. And that came out, I think, about 2 months ago. And if you look at the online discussions or whatever, the synopsis of people talking about games, no, that game doesn't get talked about anymore. It's just whatever the next thing is. And it's been that way for a long time, but it's like, especially now. It was funny. I was looking at the Game Award nominations this week, and I was like, "Oh, hey, yeah, we got to do that we can do the podcast again this year. You know, that gosh darn Game Awards #2 or whatever, or 2025 edition." But I was thinking about it, I'm like, I haven't even played barely any games this year. Like, I have and that's why I love like short story games like Inside or Limbo, because they're so short. You can just get them, bust them out an hour or 3 hours, and you're like done. And it's a great experience. It's like, and stuff like Little Nightmares 3 came out this year, which I can't wait to play through, as well as like Pac-Man World 2 remake, which, David, oh my God, I can't wait to play. And I heard it's actually pretty good. Anyway, but there's all these experiences, and it's just like, I gave up a long time ago catching up with everything, because I'm like, you can't feasibly do it. But like, pick and choose what you're interested in, what you're like in the mood for, and go for that. Like, I bought a game recently called Metal Eden, and it's the same guys that did that top-down Hotline Miami type called Ruiner. This is like this cyberpunk, but Hotline Miami, but 3D and cyberpunk. It's a really dope-ass game. And they made a first-person shooter that I never even heard of this year. Like Metal Eden. I'm like, when did this come out? It was 2 months ago. I'm like, I didn't even hear about this. Like, this is really interesting. And so I got it because it was on sale. But like, you know, good things come to those who wait anyway. So it's like, I think the thing about FOMO, especially, is like, it just falls by the wayside, for me at least. But I think with kids coming up in the games industry, especially in the last 10 years, like, the FOMO it's always been there for them. And it's really hard. Like, all your friends are playing this game, or what's the next big thing that's coming out? Oh my God, Hideo Kojima's making this game, and I can't wait to not play it, you know? Like, I don't know. It's just interesting seeing the state of things. But like, I don't know. I think in terms of where you are as a gamer, just play what seems interesting. Let's see. What's one? Oh, in terms of ease and usability things, going back to kind of wrapping up this topic, there's other aspects of my life, like I want to build a NAS, but I just don't have the time. So I'm like, I'd rather just like buy a thing, throw some drives in it, download the app, and I'm good. Like, I'd rather just do that than you and me can use it for the podcast or whatever. And it's like, or like Plex. Mm. But it's like, I'd rather just buy it for the usability and the ease of things. I'd rather pay for that convenience rather than just, even though I have the knowledge and I have gifts and talents I can use this for to save money too. But it's like, I just don't have the time anymore.
Yeah.
You know, same thing with, with video games, with technology, all this kind of stuff. I just don't have the time for it anymore. But, and I have the energy, I have the desire to, but I just don't have the drive or the energy anymore. And I feel like there's a lot of people out there like that, especially in the sense of this, where I live precariously through video game content and podcasts and YouTube videos.
You mean vicariously?
What did I say?
Precariously.
Yes. Vicariously. Yes, you're right. Thank you. Sorry, didn't think about it. Wait, so if it was precariously, David,
living precariously would be
mean
like living dangerously.
Oh.
Like if you're in a precarious situation, it means you're in a dangerous or risky situation.
And living vicariously means
you're like, basically you're living through somebody else, basically, or something else.
Living precariously.
So not precariously, vicariously.
What if I want to live precariously through
a
video game podcast host?
I don't know if there's much danger or risk in listening to podcasts.
Yeah.
Maybe you can find a dangerous way to listen to a podcast. Maybe not.
Well, I think when you listen and you're driving, that's already dangerous in itself, probably.
Oh, you know what? You know what you do?
What
here's
do you do?
Here's how you live precariously while also watching gaming podcasts is you watch the podcast while you're driving. You don't watch the road, you watch the podcast.
You mean you don't already do that? Anyway, but I feel like there's a lot of people in that same boat where they live vicariously and maybe precariously, potentially, through different gaming content, and then they form an opinion on it. I feel a lot of that, especially last year when we did our Game Awards episode, because there was a lot. I'm like, I heard about this game, and this game sounds cool. But like, and I really would love to do a gaming podcast, but it would require so much more time and effort and homework because I would actually have to play stuff for that podcast. Because I don't want to just live vicariously through these other people and say, oh yeah, that's good, and just give you a BS opinion without not experiencing it.
Yeah, I feel like the last couple times we've had Frankie on do podcasts,
he's shown how fake of a gamer I am.
He just keeps giving you shit over that. It's just like,
shout out to you, Frankie. I invited him on tonight, actually. He couldn't make it, unfortunately, but like on a whim, I'm like, hey, we couldn't do this one episode, but I have this backup. Do you want to join us? He's like, you know what? I really want to, but I just can't, dude. And I was like, oh, okay, no worries. So, love you, Frankie. Shout out to you.
As your dad says, shit happens.
My dad?
Yes.
My dad has said that? Oh, did he say that at the Bible study tonight?
Yeah. Well, it was a couple weeks ago.
Oh, what was the context of this?
We were just talking about life, and he just said that.
Wow.
And then this is like, nobody really reacted to it at first. And then somebody like, I think it was Francois was there, and Francois like,
dang, Bob.
well, he like made an offhand comment about like, because he was responding to something I said, I think. So he was like looking at me when he was talking to me, saying it. And then like, it wasn't like right after he said it, but it was like a little bit later. Francois made some quip about like,
oh, no.
what was it about David that inspired you to say that word? And then he's like, and then Bob, your dad's just like, oh, sorry, I forgot I was in church.
Oh God, that's awesome. I gotta share that. Now that you say Francois, I gotta share this on the podcast. I think it was the Friday night you and me were. Oh no, it was the Friday night like the week after you went and visit the Friday night Bible study. Francois and Pastor Jay were there, and I was like, okay, cool. And so I got to say hi to him, and it was really nice being with him. And then like Francois is leaving. He's got like a plate of food for his wife. He's taking. Which is just a random thing. I don't know why I mentioned it. Anyway, he's saying goodbye to me. I'm like, hey, see, Francois. I gave him a hug, and he's like, yeah, and he's talking to me and two other people at this table. And he's like about to leave. And he's like, well, you know what they say. I was like, what do they say, Francois? And he says, just like The Exorcist, I better hightail it and get the F out of here. And he didn't say the actual word, but he said that, the F out of here. And I was like, like I took me a second. I'm like, what did you just say? It's like Francois, God bless him. He probably was listening to this. Maybe, I don't know. But anyway, he has this thing where he's like, he makes that teacher joke. You know what I mean? Because he is a teacher as well. But he has that teacher. What's a good way to put this, David? He has that teacher tenacity, we'll say. And he has jokes that are good, but are said at maybe the wrong time. Like right at the end of a Bible study, and you drop The Exorcist, and you say, get the F out of here, to a bunch of Gen Zers that have never seen The Exorcist. So it's like a great joke. I got it. But everybody else around the table did not. It was great. It was a great awkward moment in life. Kind of like with my dad just saying to you, well, shit hits the fan, David. Okay, what were we talking about?
I don't even remember.
I don't remember. Anyway, but yeah, I just feel like that's what I've been going through this season of life in terms of video games. And I'd love to get back into it. I'm finally getting back in the swing of things, I think. I bought Plants vs. Zombies Replanted. They remastered the original. I got it on Steam Deck. I'll tell you what, man. This game's perfect. Like, there's few games out there that I would consider perfect. I think, well, actually, I'd have to think about it. But Plants vs. Zombies is definitely up there as one of the most, like, rock solid games of all time. Whether you play, and on whatever you play it on, a controller, a mouse, a keyboard, or a PS Vita, it's a great experience. Touchpad even, it's great. But I also think there's an aspect to, and then we'll dive into the other stuff we're going to talk about, but I think there's also an aspect of brain rot being induced with social media in this modern age where it is much more easier and much more convenient to just doom scroll or whatever is your thing, whether it be Facebook, Instagram, Reddit, TikTok, Twitter, what have you. I think pick your poison. I think it's so much easier to go and resort to that rather than being intentional with the other media you could consume. And everybody, I think, struggles with this. I think it's kind of a struggle that will, especially with AI, will kind of consume you if you're not very careful. I think that's very safe to say. And I think it's just important to be intentional about a lot of things in your life. Hopefully, everything. But yeah, I've kind of gotten off Instagram the last couple weeks and don't really have a desire to be there. As well as like even Twitter. Like Twitter's nice and fun, especially for news. But it can feel like a weight even, and just a waste of time a lot of times.
Yeah, I've been kind of having that a little bit too. Because usually, like, I'm one of those, like, cavemen who are still on Facebook as their, like, primary social media platform. And it used to be that, I'd, like, really, when I'm doom scrolling on Facebook, it's usually I'm just seeing what sort of juicy memes I can happen upon. Because I've, the groups I follow and the posts I've interacted with.
The groups.
It's really led me to some meme gold over the years. So
Gotta go digging in them Facebook group minds, David.
Yeah. So, that's kind of primarily what I really even use the site for. But it seems like as of late, the algorithm has just decided to turn against me, and it just keeps putting stuff on my feed that's like, just like just stuff that just gets me down. Just kind of stuff that makes me think about, the state of the world in a negative light, and it's just like, I could just, be a mindless bot and keep on scrolling and keep on consuming all that. But it's like, no, okay. I'm going to have to when I start to see 3 posts in a row that are like some pink-haired feminist, spewing nonsensical crap about, abortion and consent and, various other retarded things. I'm like, okay, all right, that's enough. That's enough social media for right now.
Consent is retarded, David? What? Careful.
No.
No.
Sorry, that
I'm not trying to put words in your mouth, but
no, the last. See, another thing that I do on Facebook is I get a lot of I'm a sick person. I'm a sick person. I get a lot of entertainment sometimes about I'll click on a controversial post and just read the comments.
Oh man.
Just enjoy the people, the flame wars,
The flame wars.
And so when I was talking, so that list of things was mostly just stuff that was in my brain from the last post I did that on. And it was it was about consent. It was about abortion. And
they were complaining about it all.
It was some feminist chick talking about consent, talking about abortion, and the post in general was retarded.
Yeah.
Like just her take on it was just utter retardation. I wanted, I was just like, how do you how do you function in society?
How do you get to this point,
with such a lack of critical thinking, and it's just it feels good in the short term, to, just be in utter shock and horror as, the decay of Western societies put on full display right in front of you, right in front of your very eyes. There's certainly an entertainment to that.
To it, yeah.
But it's a very shallow thing, and if I'm not careful, it can just bring me to a state of mind that I don't want to be in.
Yeah.
So it's now that Facebook is kind of decided it doesn't want to deliver me the goods anymore, I have to really be careful of how much of it at one time I'm actually consuming, because it seems to really want to feed me just all that contentious, retarded crap.
Yeah. Okay, well, I get you. Yeah. And it's kind of hard to not look at the garbage truck on fire at times. I totally get it. 100%. I will say, though, I liked one video about marriage on Twitter. And oh my God, David. It was one night, it was after midnight, and it was a few videos of that I liked, or posts or whatever. And then it was a Johnny Carson clip. And now my Facebook feed the last week has been nothing but marriage, husband, conservative value videos and Johnny Carson clips.
Yeah,
what the heck? I just show me some video games. I love this stuff, but this is what else is there?
See, that's the thing too, is I don't understand what's happening with
the algorithms, bro.
With the algorithm in my case specifically, because I barely interact with any posts.
Yeah.
Other than joining
Same here.
Other than joining groups, I barely interact.
Like you don't even hit like on things.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
literally the only things I hit like on is if like basically like I'll see like,
Like somebody shares a good meme. I've seen that on your feed.
like good memes.
Yeah.
Yeah, good memes. I'll do
Just
the
throw a like
I'll
that
leave
way.
the haha react on there.
Yeah.
Like pictures of like, like people people I care about,
Yeah.
sharing pictures of their like life accomplishments or like the nieces or the nephews went out and had a really fun time and stuff that's near and dear to my heart than political contention. I'll throw a like on there.
Uh-huh.
But like as far as the stuff that that's there for just entertainment value, like I don't actually interact with any of that, and yet the algorithm continually serves me that stuff.
Yeah. And I think it's funny, and here's kind of the trap I have fallen into, David, this last week, where I'm like, well, what if I buy something new of how to play the video game? Maybe that'll help me out. But no, it's like here's a great example. My grandmother, God bless her soul, she's no longer with us, so God bless her soul. And also God bless her soul because she bought a grand piano when she was like in her 40s or something, when the kids were, mostly grown up and out of the house. She bought one. She's like, I'm going to learn the piano. And she made this massive purchase and put it in the house. And then she had it. She played it for like a week and a half and then never touched it after that. She ended up selling it afterward for less than what she bought. And she's like, I'm going to learn how to play the piano. Finally, after all these years of raising children, giving it my all, I'm going to play the piano and I'm going to use my money because I've earned it. And then sure enough, it lasted for a week and she never played it again. So let it be a lesson out there for you, y'all. And I'm sure maybe my uncle's listening to this and being like, Jake, it was actually 2.5 weeks or a month or 2 months. Maybe it was. But she had it in her house for 7 years and never really used it after that. So let it be a lesson to y'all. Just because you think a Steam machine might be your avenue to play more games, like I think it might be, just intentionality. Intentionality will take you great places. So, in an effort to not resort to social media, to be intentional about video games, David, let's intentionally move to the next topic, which I've titled here, Can You Smell What the Gabe is Cooking? And can Valve outdish Microsoft? Oh, Josh is playing Risk of Rain 2. Sounds kind of fun right now, but too much for my brain at this moment. So let's continue podcasting. All right. Well, David, I don't know if you've seen the news. I don't know if you've seen what Valve has done, but it was a week or two ago, I think it was 2 weeks ago.
They announced the Gabe Cube.
They announced the Gabe Cube. Yes, little black cube, little man, as we'll call him, little guy. The Series S, he's no longer called the little man. It's the Gabe Cube, the little boy. We'll call it the boy. So anyway, that was a joke from Defining Duke. So they called the Series S, the black Series S that came out, the little man. So we're going to call the Gabe Cube. Well, just the Gabe Cube for now. So anyway, Valve came out. They announced a hardware announcement is what they said, with 3 specific pieces of hardware. A new Steam controller, iterative upon what the Steam Deck has established. You have the Valve Frame, which is their new VR headset to compete with the MetaQuest, and running on ARM with SteamOS, which is really interesting, we'll get into, and then the Steam Machine, which is an actual little box you put under your television or computer, wherever you want, and you can play video games, and it has SteamOS on it, runs AMD hardware, and it looks really good. And it comes with a controller. So it's got a lot going for it. The price, we don't know. But I think it's really interesting, and I want to know your thoughts about this, but before I hand it over to you, it's really interesting. This has happened now toward the very end of the year. And with Valve putting not a full firm date on it, but a time frame of early 2026. So probably I think that'd be Q4 in the financial year. So from January to March. or maybe April, maybe Q1, beginning of Q1 2026. We'll see what happens, but I think it's interesting they're announcing it now before the holidays, letting people know about it, and also appealing to a bunch of different users. You have the VR headset folks who still care about VR and who are now and Steve is Steam, and then you have the Steam Deck, or excuse me, the Steam Machine, and they even name drop the Steam Deck in the video, saying we were Steam Deck 2. We'll let you know when we have more information or something like that. And throughout interviews, they've said similar things. So we have the controller, the frame, the Steam Machine. David, where do you want to go? What do you want to start with first? What do you think of this announcement, and why is Valve doing this? But what do you think overall?
Yeah, as far as the frame goes, I'm not much of a VR guy.
Same.
So I can't really. I haven't devoted much brain space to thinking about that, nor do I intend to. But as far as the Steam Machine goes, the GameCube, this I think is a really good opportunity for Valve to do something that'll shake up the market. My hope is that they don't necessarily whiff it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because one of the factors right now is like, they say their take on the pricing was it's not going to be priced like a console. It's going to be priced more like a PC. And it's like for most people's perceptions, I mean, we don't know for sure, but when people hear like something like that, they think expensive.
Yep.
And it's one of those things that's like it's a cool idea, but it's not really offering a whole lot in terms of like what it gives you. It does a very specific thing.
Yeah.
And so it's like you got to think as like, is the very specific thing that it does, is it going to appeal to people who have money to burn, or is it going to appeal more towards people who don't want to spend a whole lot of money? And if it's the latter, then you got to be careful that you're not pricing it out of their reach, because then you're not going to reach them. So that's one of the pitfalls, I think, is this are they going to price it in such a way that it has to appeal to a higher end market in order to get actual sales, or are they going to keep the price pretty low and not alienate potential customers? Because right now, the way I see it is this could appeal to a lot of people if it's not too expensive. If it's a good deal for what you get based on the specs, and it's priced in such a way that you could be persuaded to buy this instead of, say, a PS5, I feel like it could really shake up the gaming market. I'm less convinced that they're gonna really be able to spin this as like a higher end thing. So that's my I'm not gonna say worry, but that's like my thing is like, I hope they don't try to spin this as like, oh, we've got this higher end customer base that's going to eat this up, so we're going to charge out the nose for it.
I think that last thing you just said is what Microsoft is thinking with their ROG Ally X. because that thing's over $1,000 or $1,000 right now.
Yeah, that's crazy.
It's ridiculous, and it's so insane because we'll get to Microsoft, I think, in a little bit, and we can interchange it in this discussion. But I think this is really fascinating from a perspective of when you look at the big picture a little bit, or you just look at let's take an observation of the industry. You have PlayStation, the dominant of the industry. You have Nintendo, who is in their own space. But you have a lot of people around them who look in and say, we can get a bite of that market. You have a lot of handheld PCs that are releasing, and that's kind of becoming a little niche market that is selling well. Well, a couple million units wise, but it's still selling, and there is a market for it. And to see a little bit of the kind of zeitgeist the Switch has brought in the last several years, and then Steam Deck being able to bring a very affordable piece of hardware and a very well-designed piece of hardware to that market. And something where like, hey, all your Steam library, we're meeting you where you're at. You can take it on the go. Most things, or some things, but not everything. With exceptions, of course. You then have, Nintendo doing their thing. Massive success with the Switch 2, especially in the last year. You have PlayStation, who is the most dominant, most well-earning portion of Sony in general, even outside their movie division. That's what's making Sony the moolah, is PlayStation. So you have that. Then you have Xbox or Microsoft. Microsoft is just running it into the ground right now with bad and poor decision after poor decision, with very little direction and vision. And it makes a lot of things they say publicly is always out of one mouth and out the other. And it's just really like, oh, this is like the ROG Xbox Ally X or whatever they call it, $1,000. They went on Good Morning America and they said, this is a taste of what the next generation of consoles is going to look like. And it's a handheld Windows-based computer. And it's like $1,000. And you're like, okay, interesting. And they've even said the next Xbox is going to be a premium product like this. And it's like, dude, what are you guys doing? And I think there's a lot of reasons why I think Xbox is doing this. I think they want to get out of hardware in general and position themselves where they are just a publisher, a distributor, and that kind of thing. They have the IP, they have the companies, they have the studios. What do they do with Xbox? Xbox is just a publisher now, I think, like we've established in, I think, our last episode with video games. But anyway, I think it's fascinating to see them kind of making motions with little direction of getting out of here. They're like, we're going to do one more Xbox, and we've promised that. But who knows? They might not. I think they will, but we shall see. I think they're gonna. But that's probably going to be our last Xbox we get. They're going to have all the libraries on there. They're going to have maybe another handheld. Who knows? But we'll see what happens. Another aspect of this is in terms of the handheld market, just on the side thing. PlayStation has their little streaming thing, the PlayStation Portal. And it's $200 streaming handheld device. You can hook up to your PS5 and stream from the network, your own network. They've just added the ability to stream from the cloud with your PSN account, which is really great and adds more value to the device. And from everything I hear, it's a great product and people like it, and they've had trouble stocking it on their website to sell it, or even in stores. People are buying it up, and it's sold several million copies already. I believe they said it's like a good 20% of PS5 owners own a Portal. Being that the number is at 70 million, that 20% is really impressive.
So the PlayStation Portal, is this something like is it like a cloud gaming thing?
Yes.
Okay.
It's not a hardware thing where you download games. It's just you stream them from your home console.
Oh, see, that's what I'm talking about is so it's more like a Steam Link.
Yep, basically.
So that's kind of interesting
It's
seems to
really
be selling
well.
like gangbusters because as far as I know, the Steam Link hardware doesn't do so well.
No, not at all.
And like when Steam actually just came out with the Steam Link app where you could just, stream your Steam library to whatever device you wanted, like that was a game changer, dude.
Yeah.
Okay,
I was a little hyperbolic on that number. It's not 20%. It's 5%.
Oh.
PS5 owner. But 5%, and
that's still good.
It's still good. 70, I think it's estimated there's about 70, 80 million PS5s out there right now, which is really good. It's been 5 years. That means like 5% of 70 million is still a few million. Like, that's still pretty good.
Yeah,
So
that's good. Is 20%? That's
massive.
That's 1 in 5.
Yeah, that's crazy. So it's like, versus, I think that number would have been like 10, 12 million. And then this number is more like maybe 4 million or something like that. We'll see. I don't have the brain capacity to know what 5% of 70 million is, but I'm sure somebody's screaming at me through the microphone. Anyway.
It's about,
what would that be?
I would probably say it's about like 1.5 million, something like that.
Yeah. And it's still, and that was just with Google Gemini. I don't know. And that was based off numbers for this year, most recent. I think it was like through halfway of the year. But I'm sure PlayStation's going to release after this holiday. I'm sure it'll be even higher. So we'll see. But let's look at price real quick. So the Steam Machine comes out. Who knows what it'll be? But when you look, let's talk about pricing.
Oh, sorry, I was wrong. I did the calculation wrong. That's more like 3.5 million.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. It's like 3-ish million, and that's, I think, where the Steam Deck was last tracked. Where I don't know if it was Valve official numbers or it was just Steam users that have the deck and then are using it. I believe that is because here's also a number. So there's about 3 or 4 million Steam Deck users or Steam Decks sold. I think it's like, I want to say it's like 3 or 4 million, something like that. Anyway, 20% of that was, so that'd be like, 1 million. You dock the Steam Deck and use it as use the docking feature. So Valve took that data and then they have invested it into this new hardware line. So like, what can we do? Where can we meet our users where they're at and add more value to the platform? And that's what they're doing. That's what I wanted Microsoft to do for so long, but they have yet to, and probably will never do that now. But it's really interesting. So let's look at price. So if you go on YouTube, I follow this guy named Moore's Law is Dead. And audience, you go find this as well, and we'll have the video linked in the description. The video was November 12th, 2025. It says Steam Machine Spec Analysis, Valve, My Price, Xbox Out of Gaming, blah, blah, blah. But basically, he is a price analyst who used to work for, I don't know what companies, but he used to work for some tech companies, and he used to do this for a living. But he went out and priced the Steam Deck and how much it would cost Valve with the die shrinks and the specific APUs that they're using, which you can also find the same type of APUs in different laptops on the market that are priced about $400 to $500. But if you get all the parts together, and this is before the RAM price increases that we mentioned earlier in the show, but he priced it at, if they do, the Steam Deck cost about $300 to make. The Steam Machine with 512 gigs of RAM, 512 gigs of storage, of SSD storage, is at $425. And that's with Valve mass buying from distributors, from factories, from manufacturers, the RAM, the system storage, the display, not even display because you don't have that in the Steam Machine. But you have the connectivity, the battery, the cooling system, shell, the controller, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, one thing too is
$425.
He mentioned when he was talking about what it could act, because I watched the video, and he mentioned what it could actually cost to the consumer, and he said a number that kind of blew my mind. Seems like kind of a stretch. He said if they really wanted to like undercut Microsoft, he could see them pricing it at like something like $449. And this seemed like a little bit of a stretch to me, but it was like, if that came out, if the Steam Machine with the specs that it has, that came out at $449, like this thing could shake up the industry. This thing could make some waves.
And I agree. I don't think it'll make like insane impact, but I think the fact that it's in the market is really interesting. Because here's the thing: if you're just looking at comparative pricing right now, so I'm going to go to Xbox and try to see if I can buy a Series X. The price just increased this last year, And to get a terabyte with the disk drive, holy crap, it's even higher than I thought it was. It's $650 USD in the US. That's freaking expensive. Brand new, by the way. Now, when we go buy a PS5, just a regular PS5, not even the Pro. Oh, by the way, that Series X is not on sale for Black Friday yet. I'm sure it will be soon, since we're around that time recording this. But full price, $650. That's a lot for a Series X. This thing was $500 5 years ago. And now it's six. It's crazy.
Yeah, that's crazy.
So PlayStation, if you're going to buy it brand new without the current Black Friday deal you're getting this holiday season, you're paying $550 for the PS5, brand new. Now you can probably go, of course, on Marketplace, your local game shop, eBay, pay less for a lot of this stuff. But we're talking brand new, so I don't think we should be comparing it to used prices. Let's just look at comparative pricing. So you got $650 for Xbox Series X and $550 for the PS5 in the US specifically. And Steam, what they're doing is they're only selling their stuff on the Steam store. So you're not going to go to Best Buy and find a Steam machine. You're not going to go to Walmart or a Costco or wherever. You're going to go to their website. And you have this little box, which has decent hardware, like the 7600 RX 7600 graphics card is a decent card. Like, it's not bad. It's a very mid-range
Well, it's
graphics
not
card.
exactly an RX 7600.
Not exactly,
It's
yeah.
more or less akin to
it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it might be clocked less or more, we'll see. But the fact that they were able to smash all this together in a 160 millimeter by 160 millimeter chassis, and it's only 160 millimeters tall, is pretty insane. With the connectivity, with the micro SD slot in the front, and you get the controller with it, that's a pretty interesting proposition.
The one thing I'm curious about, I've haven't gotten any concrete info, is whether things like memory and storage will be upgradable in the future.
It is. So if you go and watch like Linus Tech Tips, for example, or some other tech YouTubers looking at this thing, which Valve gave them access to, they showed a stripped down version and you can upgrade the SSD in it, kind of like the Steam Deck. So you can crack it open, upgrade the SSD, and you can use a full-size SSD if you want, unlike the Steam Deck where you have to use that tiny little one. Also, you have a micro SD card slot in the front, which if you're using it in the Steam Deck, you just unplug it, and you plug it into the Steam machine, and it automatically recognizes everything, and it automatically brings it all up.
Okay.
Which is super cool. But for me, it says right here, and they advertise in the video, 4K gaming in quotes at 60 frames with FSR, which is the frame resolution scaling you can get higher frames at. Or scalable anti-aliasing, basically, for layman's terms.
Is FSR, is that frame generation?
No, it's separate.
Okay.
FSR is like scaling things where the resolution's more clear where you're looking at in the center of the screen versus around it. And it's hard to make out actually if it's, which is really interesting. So like, here's the thing. The Steam machine is a little black box, little boy. We'll call him the little boy that you put next to your TV. And to have your whole Steam library on there, because if you go to my Steam Deck, I have like, I'm sad to say this, about 700 something games on my library. It's a lot. I get it. But about, I think 200 to 300 of those or 250 are great on deck. So like games are specifically verified. But then everything else verified and playable, everything else that's playable is like 500 something. So double that number. And there's some that are specific like strategy games that just haven't been updated by the developer for the Steam Deck, or just you can try to boot up, but they're not like specifically made or updated for the Steam Deck. You can still use the trackpads and try to get it going and use the touchscreen, but you won't have that touchscreen on the Steam machine. But say, David, you bought Doom the Dark Ages on Steam. That'll run on the Steam machine, no problem. Say I bought Dying Light the Beast, which is most recent Dying Light game. I can play that on the Steam machine. Say you're going to play... Let's say you're going to play Judas when it comes out. It might run on the Steam machine, probably not. We'll see. I don't know. But in terms of usability, in terms of pricing, if they can price this thing at $600, let's say high end, if they go $600, I would still bite the bullet and get it because I've been wanting to get something for the living room. That's not our Xbox that we have out there, just for the Steam library, and I think it'd be worth the price.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking is if they could get the price somewhere where it doesn't creep into, it doesn't go over like say about $600 or so, I would seriously consider getting one.
Yeah, and they say they do 500. That would already be undercutting the PS5 and the Series X in the US and the rest of the world because it costs more everywhere else. So it's like they would be cutting that price at 500.
Yeah, honestly, if they could deliver like 500 for the like 512 option and then say like 600 for like it's like 2 terabytes
yeah,
or
2
whatever.
terabyte, yeah.
Whatever the higher end one is, like that I think would be the sweet spot.
Mm.
I would seriously consider getting one, even though I don't play very many games at all, just because that's such an attractive option.
Yeah.
As far as price to performance to convenience, like they've really hit upon something here that it's like there are certain factors that consumers want in, when they're purchasing gaming hardware. There's certain things that they're looking for. And, if you can actually just hit the sweet spot of all those various factors that consumers are looking for, they're going to latch onto a product. And it seems like Valve is like almost like the only company who even gets this. It seems like Microsoft and Nintendo are just off in La La Land where they're like, no,
we can treat you how we want to.
Yeah, we don't create products that consumers want to buy. We create the products that we want to sell you and then make you feel bad if you don't opt in.
And that's why I love Valve so much. And if you go out and you look at the current state of news about the Steam machine, you're going to see a lot of thumbnails saying $800. Oh my God, what about this? But it's like, if you are actually paying attention to what they're saying, then actually I think they could do, I think it's going to be $600 flat out. I think they're going to go that or $550 and just price the same comparable to the current consoles. Now, the consoles that are going to come out in 2027, well, that's a discussion for another time. But say you buy this, get this for the living room, it'll be able to run a lot of games. Maybe not at 4K, but a lot of games. Like, it'll run most of your library, I think, just by looking at the specs. And like, I have a 2080 Super in my computer right now, and I don't know if the 7600 is, first off, the 2080 Super, I think it's from like 2018 or something, a year like that. This is a newer architecture, more efficient, more power efficient, more more higher clock speed, everything. So it's like, and it runs on less power. So it's like, this is just brand new, like newer technology in general, even though if it's comparable to a 7600, which is 2 years old at this point, it's still great hardware. Like, there's a reason I bought like old ass hardware for those computers out there, because you can run a lot on them. Like, a 1080 was a 2016. You can still run a lot of games on that today. So like, the longevity, I think, of this, machine is going to be for quite a while. I think you're going to get a good, like, if say you buy brand new games, yeah, you're probably going to have to play it to like 1080p and see what frame rate you get. But you'll be able to do that for the next, I'd say, 4 years, depending on the title, of course.
And if you can upgrade the RAM, because you mentioned it being up to upgrade the storage, but if you can upgrade the RAM, then that's even more life you can squeeze out of it.
Yeah, I mean, say RAM prices even out, you get a 32 gig kit you can put in here. I mean, the talks that we're hearing about AI and different video games, especially with the PS6 coming out, that is going to have 24 gigs of RAM or even higher. We'll see. But that's going to be a necessity and requirement for a lot of AAA games going forward that are going to utilize that RAM for their AI models in games. So looking at the future side, that could work out. The biggest thing is the 8 gigs of VRAM, the video memory. At 4K, that's pretty rough sell nowadays for some of the AAA, like, say, Oblivion, for example, remastered, which is a shit show of a performing game in terms of performance. You know, not saying it's a bad game, but it's a horribly performing game, and they haven't gone back and fixed it. You're going to run it on the Steam machine, but at like 1080p and like probably close to 60 frames with FSR. I could see that. But other stuff, like that's a worst case example. But in terms of the other stuff, I think you'll be fine. And also, I was having a discussion with one of the kids at a friend's giving recently, David. We were having a Smash Bros. Tournament, and one of them came up to me and said, "Do you know how to build a PC?" I'm like, "I've been asked this question for a long time. Thank you, young child." And so I answered him and I said, "Well, here's this and this and this, and you can do this, but prices are crazy right now." And he says, "Well, I'm like, what do you want to play?" He's like, "Everything." Well, I'm like, "Well, say how much money you got?" And he's like nothing. And I was like, "Well, let's see, let's start somewhere." So I told him some options, but I honestly told him, I said, "If you want to just get in your foot through the door, this next month is the Steam winter sale. Go ahead and take $50. Go do your chores, go do some jobs for your parents or whatever. Get $50, buy a Steam card, go buy some games on Steam when the sale happens, and you'll get a good start to a library." That's what I did. I put $50 in a summer sale, and I got a couple games I could future play in the future when I didn't have a crappy laptop, and then some other games that I could play right now, like some 2D games or whatever. And I told him, I said, "Get a Steam Deck, bro. Like, you're going to be able to play a lot of stuff on there. And I'm sure you have stuff like a PS5 or something like that to play like your Fortnites and your Minecrafts. So you're kind of covered already. But a Steam Deck can run stuff like all the PlayStation AAA titles that are on Steam right now. Ghost of Yotei, Spider-Man 1 and 2, Miles Morales, Last of Us Part 2. The Steam Deck can run it. I played Last of Us Part 2 on my Steam Deck a little bit. It runs at like PS4 quality, but I don't care. It works and it's fun and it runs smooth enough that I can have a good experience on it. And I think that's what Valve is aiming for the Steam machine. So I'm excited to see where it goes and what it provides. And if it's $500 to $600, I'm going to get it. But if it's anything higher than $600, I'm going to wait.
Yeah, same. One thing that kind of excites me about it too is it really shows that they truly are interested in giving the consumer what they want. Is one of that podcast that you sent me the link to, talking about anti-cheat.
Yeah.
And saying that they're actually looking into trying to figure out how to make it possible, not only possible, but make it feasible for developers to implement anti-cheat solutions in Steam OS so that popular multiplayer titles aren't, players who have the Steam machine or the Steam Deck aren't locked out of popular multiplayer titles because of the lack of anti-cheat.
Yeah, and I get why developers are straying away from the Steam Deck and Linux in general. But if Steam can find and work with them and find a solution they can implement to a game when it comes out on a Steam machine or a Steam Deck, that opens up a wealth of possibilities for both companies. Success for both of them. Like Apex Legends was on Steam Deck for a long time. And then EA found cheaters using it and didn't want to support it. And so they just took it off and didn't have any conversation. The people spoke up and Valve connected with EA. And I think that's what's happening right now. They're trying to work with the other companies and trying to figure out a solution. And I liked how they answered it too. Like if you watch that podcast, which is Friends Per Second podcast, they interviewed the devs or two people who are heading up the Steam machine and the other hardware announcements here. They said it in an interesting way. They said, we are pursuing our relationships with these developers or something like that. But then they said, we are also working on a solution for them to implement. So I'm like, okay, so you're working basically with them to implement some form of anti-cheat that would be sufficient for them as devs. Because once you unlock that, you get Battlefield 6, you get Call of Duty, you get the other multiplayer titles that have been, you get Apex Legends again, you get the other titles that have been locked out of Steam Deck and Steam Machine for a long time. So I'm really excited to see what they do. And another thing, David, I want to talk about just a little bit, we can just touch on it here, is the controller. What do you think of it?
It looks a little bulky for me.
Yeah.
I'm not a huge fan of having having a bunch of stuff going on in the area where it should,
Your hands.
like, because the controller has the handles that, you grip on, that each of your hands grip on, and then it flows up to the middle part where it's slimmer. And it's just like my brain can't really deal with the super chunky designs where that space is taken up by additional buttons or trackpads or what have you. So I don't think the Steam controller is necessarily going to be for me. But then again, if, I get a Steam machine and it happens to come with one, I'm not going to complain. But other than my personal distaste for the positions of the trackpads on there, it seems like a great idea.
Yeah, it looks, like you said, chunky. And I think my hands are going to definitely touch those haptic feedback, the touchpads. But I don't think it's a big deal. I think there's plenty of space on there. I think that's why it's so chunky, so you can go around them. But I'm excited because I like the way the Steam Deck is set up. I like the symmetrical sticks, like where they're in the same line, unlike an Xbox controller, which I'm used to. There's something about those symmetrical sticks, like on a PlayStation controller or a Steam Deck, that just work really well, especially for handheld gaming. But with the controller, I'm excited. And also in that podcast, they also talked about how their goal is to have up to 8 or even more controllers, including third-party Bluetooth controllers, on one Steam Deck at once that you can just seamlessly connect to, and you can all play together.
I know the Steam machine is gonna have, because they debuted that like puck thing, that's like doubles as the charger and receiver, which is a cool idea. I bought the 40th anniversary rare Xbox controller from 8-Bit Do.
Yeah.
And like it has a little like cradle thing that also doubles as the the 2.4 gigahertz dongle or whatever. So the fact that Valve is basically doing the same thing but in a much more space-friendly design, I think is cool. And I think they mentioned that the Steam machine itself will basically have 4 of those like internally, so you could connect 4 Steam controllers to a Steam machine without any additional hardware whatsoever.
Yeah, so the Steam machine has it built in. Yeah, which is super cool. And then the puck you can use up to 4. I was confused though. Did they say 4 Steam controllers or 4 controllers in general per puck?
I don't know what they. I think the puck itself is just for one controller. And I think they mentioned that they were gonna have 4, like the part of the puck that's the actual transmitter, the antenna or whatever you want to call it. However they connect, it's gonna have 4 of those inside the Steam machine.
Okay. Huh.
That's
I didn't catch that, but okay.
That's that's what I thought they said. I could be wrong, but what I believe they said was it's going to have basically 4 internal like puck
receivers
style receivers, so that you can have just like you can connect a 4 Steam controllers to a Steam machine just, with without additional hardware, the same way like a PlayStation controller can connect to a PlayStation without having additional hardware, or an Xbox controller can connect to an Xbox without using additional hardware. The Steam machine, despite being a PC, it seems like they're going to have the internal receivers so that you can have that console style hassle free controller pairing.
Yeah, which is also really cool because this is going to be the first PC you can get on the market that you pick up the controller, you press the button, and it instantly wakes up. Kind of like a PS5 or Series X. Like, there's things and different custom things you can do, like with Bazite on your own custom PC, you can do that, but it's kind of inaccurate and it works half the time. So it's like that software's not up to date, but Valve is like persistently improving their hardware and the capabilities of it. And I'm really excited. And here's the thing, Valve's a private company. They can do whatever the heck they want. I mean, around the same time this came out, Gabe Newell purchased a $500 million yacht. They're doing really well. So, and I think they have like 300 employees, which is not bad at all. And they're working on hardware, and I'm sure there's people who are working on games. We had Half-Life Alyx, and who knows what they're working on next. Deadlock and potentially maybe another Half-Life game. We'll see. I don't know. But to have also them work on hardware, to have, them doing this with 300 employees, and of course Steam in general, that's pretty cool. They've been very pro-consumer the whole way. There've been some things this year about different laws in terms of privacy and adult games with the European Union that they've had to wrestle with. And it's been like a struggle and a lot of criticism from developers of adult-only games. But other than that and some other like EU laws that they've had to like wrestle through, they're pretty great. And I would even say the way they handled those things were kind of pretty as best as they could, So they get a lot of crap for a lot of things. A lot of people don't like Valve, but I think it's because they are super successful and they're privately owned. There are some videos you can find on the internet about people say, I was a former Valve employee and they were misogynistic to me. But then again, every company has videos like that, I would say.
Yeah.
To be fair. But I don't know. They're very pro-consumer. The way they handle Steam in the market is pretty interesting. And to have this be thrown into the market with the Steam machine, and of course, we haven't even mentioned, we haven't even talked about the frame that much, barely at all. But that's also really interesting too. And it's like what they're doing to accelerate the VR platform. So they're meeting their people where they're at. Xbox, on the other hand, ain't.
No.
They're kind of running away from their audience, for lack of a better term.
Yeah.
So it's interesting to see Microsoft starting their process of removing themselves from the hardware scene. And then we get, and I'm not saying this is like Valve replacing Xbox in terms of hardware. My Xbox is going to have Xboxes for a while now, for the next couple of years. So I wouldn't worry about that. But it's interesting to see this thrown into it. And so we cover bases here, I don't think the Steam Deck's going to be, 10 million units sold in the first year. They'll probably sell a few million units, and then it will kind of even out and maybe go a little up like the Steam Deck has already. But we shall see. What do you think, David? What do you think of Microsoft's expensive handheld, them saying the next gen is going to be super premium, as well as them kind of just exiting the market? They canceled that Perfect Dark game as well as a MMO that Rare was making and a bunch of other stuff.
Yeah,
What do you think about all this?
I think the age of Xbox gaming that I grew up with
It's over.
Is there? It's never coming back.
Nah.
Maybe sometime in the past 10 years or so, if they had really gotten their heads out of their asses, maybe they could have worked back towards something like that. But at this point, I think that ship has sailed.
Yeah.
Which it really makes me sad because I watched I watched those videos from the one chick, and it reminded me of, I think it was the Act Man. I think
Oh,
the the dude who I was scrolling through YouTube and I came across his video back when Microsoft first unveiled the price increase for Game Pass. I think what his was the first thing I saw on that.
yeah.
And so it was like both that and the video of the one chick made on Game Pass like made me really sad to watch because it had a lot of like clips.
Yeah.
Both videos had a lot of clips of like just Xbox's golden era. You know, and it just like it brought me back to all those hours playing Halo 2. And just I honestly like as much as like I grew up on Nintendo and that will always be nostalgic to me, like Xbox really, really, really made an impression on me when I was a teenager. Like I was like, whoa, gaming is like grown up now. It's like they were cooking back in the day. Like obviously Sony still won the console wars in the end.
Totally.
But to me, the OG Xbox was the most special. Was the coolest one out of all three of them.
That's darn right.
Yeah, and then watching the video you sent me, and then also seeing that Act Man video about Game Pass as well. It's just like all those clips of the days of yore. It's like, man, we're never getting that again.
We're not. It's really sad when you think about it. And I've actually wanted to do an episode about why we love Xbox. Even though it's like they're sailing into the night, you know, they're kind of bidding farewell. There was a quote I found on Twitter about from Steve Jobs back in like 2002. And he talked about, or no, it was like in the 90s. And he talked about, you know, his critiques of Microsoft. And he said Microsoft has leading developers making B-tier products, is what his quote was. And I was like, huh, that kind of echoes really, the truth of that really echoes especially today. I mean, you look at the kind of games they make nowadays, and they're all kind of B-tier. Like even stuff like, I mean, even Doom the Dark Ages, which isn't, I wouldn't say it's a B-tier game, but it makes great games. Microsoft just purchased them. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's the thing.
Microsoft
isn't really making games themselves.
Yeah.
It's funny how we talk, I mean, everyone's talking about, you know, the possibility of Xbox just exiting the hardware market completely. I mean, they're kind of exiting the games market completely too, because all the like really good Xbox games that have come out haven't been Microsoft games. They've just been made by companies that Microsoft purchased, like Bethesda.
Yeah.
You know, it's literally the only reason like Xbox has good games at the moment is, I mean, it's pretty much because they own companies like Bethesda. You know,
they own jobs like id Software.
Yeah, exactly.
Like Raven Software, all these other stuff. These other companies.
Isn't it owned by Bethesda?
Yes.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Because like Bethesda's kind of like an umbrella corporation, and like has a whole bunch of developers underneath it, and then Microsoft owns them. So it's just like,
and it's funny because I think this all kind of started, at least in my opinion. I think it all started with when they purchased Activision Blizzard a couple years ago, where they had the biggest media purchase in history at the time. I think it was like at the end $78 billion, which is crazy. But they went ahead and they purchased them. And I remember following all these people that said, this is so exciting. This is so great. Game Pass and Call of Duty. And this just is looking brighter and brighter. And I was on that train too, I'll admit. I'm like, I mean, this is good. But then I remember hearing my boy, Colin Moriarty from Sacred Symbols and IGN and Kind of Funny Days saying, guys, this is bad. There are a lot of layoffs in the future that they're going to do with Blizzard, with Activision, King, whoever they're purchasing, as well as their own employees. Like, there's going to be a lot of layoffs. This is not a good thing for the consolidation of the industry. And all the people on the podcast he was guest starring on were like, no, F you, like, this is like the best thing ever. They were like all kind of on the hype train when the deal went through. And this is kind of the result of that. The $78 billion in not Salty Nutella, but Satya Nadella, the CEO, is like, hey, Phil, when are we going to get that $78 billion back? What are we investing in to kind of work to that? And it's like, it's kind of Microsoft, they've taken over, I think, Xbox, and they're exiting out of hardware. They're going to bid farewell to that, and they're just going to be a publisher from now on.
And they're really kind of shooting themselves in the foot, too, because, like, they got out of actively developing games. They're getting out of the hardware market. And so what's their big revenue source?
Yeah.
Game Pass. That's pretty much all they got.
For Xbox,
Yeah. That's pretty much all they got. And then they decide to screw over all their users by jacking up the price and just making the service worse in general.
And I'll tell you what, David. This semester, working at where I work, has been the semester for crappy-ass Windows updates. Because I work in tech, I help people with their computers. They're purchasing laptops with Windows 11, and it's so bogged down with all kinds of crap, which is, decrapifying your PC. I get it, totally. But the implementation of Copilot and AI is sucking up so many resources that these poor laptops that these students have is just sucking up so much of the hardware that you can't do anything anymore. Like, you log in to your Microsoft account, you open up the desktop, even with an SSD, you click on Google Chrome or Edge, it takes like 5 to 10 seconds to load, and then you get into your Outlook, your email, and it takes another like 30 seconds to load, or 20 seconds. I'm kind of exaggerating. But just everything takes longer. Everything takes more effort.
That's crazy.
Copilot just gets in the way of everything. It's integrated into everything that Windows 11 has, every feature in Windows 11. It's horrible. It's absolutely atrocious. And it disgusts me so much that even today, I told a student, I said, we're working on a Cisco network, a packet tracer for those lovely people that get that, and for a networking class for computer stuff, basically. And I was working with him, and I've helped decrapify his PC before, but the Copilot button kept getting in the way, and it kept bringing up Copilot. And I was getting so annoyed. I'm like, bro, I just want control. That's where control should be, on the right side of the keyboard. And like, I told him, I said, you know what, Haney? Every day I get closer and closer to my next purchase being a MacBook. Every single day, David. Like this week especially. It's only Monday, but this week I'm like, I want to get a MacBook because I want a streamlined process. I can use Adobe Premiere Pro on there, which is what I use my computer for. I can use all the online apps like Canva and all the other stuff we use on the MacBook. I can download plenty of things I use on this Windows laptop, all my files, all my Outlook, all my Office stuff on the MacBook. I'm ready to say goodbye to Windows laptops. Like, I am so ready, David. Like, I'm right there.
That's the thing is, as a current MacBook user, that's one thing I really appreciated is Apple Intelligence is fully integrated into Mac OS.
Yes.
But you can also opt out of it. And also it works in such a way, like the laptops are designed in such a way that Apple Intelligence isn't a drain on the system resources. Like it doesn't take you longer to open up Chrome or Safari in the case of the Mac web browser, just because you've enabled Apple Intelligence, you know.
Yeah, and that kind of goes into a little thing we'll get to in a second, but to kind of wrap my spiel up about this is like, I have Windows 10. I still use Windows 10. I'm not going off of it. I'm going to stay on it as long as possible. I was the same with 7, the same with even 8 when Windows 10 came out. I was going to stick with Air. I'm not going over until it's good. Windows 11, it might be good. It might get to the point. But this is the first time, especially with AI, where I'm like, I'm so tired of Microsoft making B-tier products and acting like they are the bee's knees and having their little store and having, oh, David, I'm so mad. Like, oh, you want to use this product? You know what? Great. Like stuff like Adobe is just an atrociously horrible, awful company that if there's a special circle in hell for Adobe as a company. Like everybody who is in charge of Adobe, David, they're just going to be in hell in a special circle named Adobe. Like there's going to be an 8th circle of hell that Dante forgot about when we get to the end. And it's going to be Adobe because that's how much I hate them. But Microsoft, a little bit lower than that. I don't hate them as much. But it's getting to the point where I'm like, and this is why I love the Steam Machine and the Steam Deck, where I'm like, wait, you're telling me that almost every game I own on Steam, the majority of stuff I want to play, can run on Linux with the translation layer, and it actually, in some cases, runs better than on Windows? You got to be ishing me, bro. Like, this is ridiculous. Like, how is this possible? And Microsoft is falling so far behind. It's like, and they're a $1 trillion company. Like, what? Oh, it just makes me like, that's what I've been frustrated by. And I just want stuff to work. That's why I'm interested in the Steam Machine. Also, here's the side thing I want to bring up. The Steam Frame. So it's using a translation layer, David, like the Steam Deck. But it's using it on a Snapdragon processor, an ARM-based processor. You know it's an open source thing that they are contributing to, that you can go get on GitHub. David, do you know what else is ARM-based?
I mean, a lot of things.
That's true. But specifically, Mac M chips are ARM-based.
Yeah.
And Mac, it's rumored right now. I heard this I can't remember where I heard it, in some random podcast. But it's rumored that Mac will be releasing a little set-top box you can put in your living room, like a little media device. And you can play like mobile games or whatever on it, and especially it's a little streaming device. They are aiming to use that same translation layer for different games for that box.
Yeah, that's the thing is Apple has to actually do that.
Yeah, well, we'll see. But the fact that
that's the thing is Apple already has a x86 to ARM translation layer that works amazingly.
Oh, really?
It's called Rosetta.
Oh, yeah, you told me about it.
It works incredibly well. The problem is they don't. Its implementation is very limited, so you can't just play any game you want. On a MacBook. It takes a lot of work to get each individual game up and running, and that's usually on the developer to make that work.
Yeah.
So the implementation isn't very good. And to be honest, if Apple was interested, they could probably make it work a whole lot better. Because it's like, what is it called? Proton, Valve's translation layer that they use for the Steam Deck.
Yeah.
Like, that works amazingly well.
And you know what?
Like, there's so many games you can play on the Steam Deck as, like, Apple could do the exact same thing for their laptops, but they just don't.
And you know what? People have, if you go on, you can go find them on YouTube, but there's people that have translated not just like Epic Game Store games or GOG games or EA app or Ubisoft Play Store games into the translation layer, right? They've not only done that, they've also translated different apps that are on Windows to with Proton. And in some cases, without much fiddling around, they just work. You can just add them to Steam and the app will work. Now, I'm not saying like Adobe Premiere Pro is going to work. That's not the case. But like small stuff, like some note-taking apps, some other some other office processing, like word processing apps, that kind of thing. Like I remember, speaking of which, speaking of at work too. I was at work, I was at the front desk, and we have little Dell docking stations that are USB-C Thunderbolt. And I forgot my laptop, and I'm like, crap, what am I gonna do? Because I usually plug my laptop in and I'm good to go. I have 2 monitors now with my mouse and keyboard. And so I'm like, crap, I forgot. I'm like, we do have an extra one that kind of like is bare bones that I could use, but I'd have to sign into everything. And then I thought, I'm like, wait. And I've said this on the podcast before, but just to reiterate, I told myself, I said, I have my Steam Deck with me. Let me try this. So I plugged it in and just automatically, David, it worked. And it booted up. It went on 2 screens. The screens automatically worked, and I can use the mouse and my keyboard, and it just worked in the desktop mode. I'm like, this is insane. And I could do Canva. I check my email. I can sign. I can use the. I can go sign PDFs. I can go do all this other stuff on Linux. So it's like there's a lot of alternatives that are great. The thing that's holding back from people switching is the usability, convenience, and the utility, or the impenetrable, what's it called? This lack of accessibility with Linux. Ease of use, convenience, and the lack of accessibility with different apps. Adobe products is the major one, and as well as games. That's like the major thing that's holding like Linux right now. And I think Steam going into this market with SteamOS and with Proton and all this stuff it's gonna make Microsoft hopefully somewhat competitive again. We'll see. But Steam's coming for the desktop. They're on their way to it. And I think that's why this is so important too.
Yeah. I really think that they've hit upon something that could do really well. And not only that, but I think could inspire greater change in the industry, kind of in the same way that the Steam Deck originally did, is like all of a sudden people realized there was a market for this kind of thing. And so they're like, okay, let's start making our own version now. And so now there's different options in the market.
Yeah. And it's not a huge market for these handheld PCs, but the potential is there.
Yeah.
I mean, just look at the PS Portal. Like, people are hungry for like portability stuff again.
And that's the thing too, is like, I feel like there's more potential for growth with something like the Steam Machine, because you can use it not only for gaming, but you can also use it for productivity.
Yeah.
Like, you can technically use the Steam Deck for productivity.
Yeah.
It takes a little bit of extra setup.
Yeah.
But like the Steam Machine is literally a PC. You just connect a monitor or a TV and a mouse and keyboard to it, and you've got a computer that you can do
whatever you want.
Work with.
Yeah, work. You can actually work. And that's what I was able to do. And I was Googling stuff at the same time that day. I had my Steam Deck connected to, while at work. And I figured out how to add different websites as a shortcut on the desktop. So I can just click on the taskbar, Canva, and boom, it opens up. I can click on Outlook and it opens up. Like, there was different ways I could do that. And I'm like, this is so awesome. Like, I get why people love to tinker around with Linux, and it was always so like unappealing to me because it was so much work. However, the potential's there, and I'm really excited to see where we go from here. So, exciting stuff's happening. Also, another thing with the Steam Deck when it comes out, David, have you heard of games like Schedule 1, games like Peak, games like, well, also known as friend slot games?
Yeah.
Those aren't on PS5, and they're not on Xbox. They're on PC.
Interesting.
They're on PC right now because they're from smaller indie devs that may or may not have dev kits, and it's taking them time and money and effort to port them to those platforms.
Yeah.
And they have to work with PlayStation or Xbox or whatever to get that going. If you get a Steam machine, say the next big friend slot game comes out, or your Mega Bonks or whatever you want to play, and they're not on the consoles, you can go and play that random ass indie game that's really big on a Steam machine, and it's gonna work. There are a lot of them that are coming out, especially Peak and Schedule 1, work on the Steam Deck. And you don't have to finagle with settings because these games are like made to run on pretty low end hardware. So you can just download Peak, run it on Steam Deck, and just start playing.
Honestly, you know what the game industry needs is AAA friend slop.
Yeah.
Like I keep going back to Army of Two and his lost potential.
Yes.
We
should play that. We should play that together.
Yeah.
I would be down. I've heard things about it, and I'm intrigued.
I played a demo of it like a long, long time ago, and that's
Steam?
about it.
Let me see if it's on Steam.
But yeah, that's what the industry needs is AAA friend slop.
Let's see. Army of Two. Is it on Steam right now? Army of... It's not.
I think it's a 360 title.
Yeah, we'll have to get on 360 and play co-op. That'll be fun. I think that one's also backwards compatible with Xbox One. So you should be good there. That'd be cool. Also, Steam has done a good job of kind of not only fostering their community and their users, but the fact that they've been able to do it on this massive platform and while having a lower employee count is kind of insane. You look at Microsoft Xing tens of thousands of employees, and you're like, holy crap, like this is crazy. Mostly because of merging, but there are also tens of thousands of employees that don't need to be at these companies. They're kind of just there. Yeah, they have a job, but how viable is that job? Is it just an avenue to get to the higher middle management and then high management and then executives? Like, is it really sustainable?
Yeah, I feel like in a lot of these larger tech companies, there's a lot of positions that do nothing of consequence.
Yeah.
They don't do actually any real work. Like sometimes you see those like this is a day in a life of a 24-year-old girl boss
and working at Meta.
Yeah, and they and they they go and they like drink a smoothie and they work out
and then they go work for 3 hours and then they're done for the day.
Yeah, they don't even really work. They're like, maybe they answer a few emails or something, It's just like...
Yeah, Silicon Valley is just a hole people throw money into at the end of the day. There's some things that'll pay off and that do eventually pay off, like Amazon. But Amazon took 15, 20 years to be profitable. And now it's the biggest corporation, one of the biggest corporations in the world. But it took 20 years to get there. So it's like for 20 years or 15 years, they're just throwing money in a hole. But if you manage it well, there's some potential out of it. But it's like there's so many companies out there and not everyone's going to get to that. So nothing against like folks that work for them. Like I'm sure you're going to get your money and enjoy it and not have to work a whole lot. Like that sounds kind of nice. But
it's not a sustainable
practice,
Yeah. Yeah, I have no ill will towards any of the girl bosses out there that are living their best life right now. More power to you, but unfortunately, I don't think you're going to be able to rely on stuff like that in the future.
Yeah. Also, just to name a few games here, stuff like Borderlands 4, which is like insane to run right now, that's going to run on Steam Machine. And that's one of the most unoptimized games of the year. That'll run on Steam Machine. You got all your Final Fantasy VII Remake games. You got all your Forza games. Like, those already run on Steam Deck pretty well. You got Starfield. You got all these other games in the
I
last
mean, I
couple
don't know
years.
why anyone would want to play that, but you got it.
You got it, you know. I am sort of intrigued. I don't know. I'm not even a Fallout guy, so I don't know if I'd even be a Starfield kind of man, but, you know. But
I'm a
even,
Fallout guy, and Starfield looks like ass to me.
but even, I don't know. There's other things out here, and the future seems bright if you do invest, I think, in a Steam machine, but we shall see. We shall see. And we'll see what happens with Microsoft. I think, what do you think is going to happen, David? We can end it here, but I want to know what you think the future holds for Microsoft and what happens to Xbox. Is Xbox just going to be a brand, kind of like we've mentioned before in the past? Is it going to be something that Microsoft sells off? Is it something it just absorbs? What's going to happen to Xbox?
Yeah, I think Xbox as a brand is just gonna start kind of slipping into irrelevance.
Mm,
Like, you know, I don't think it'll go away necessarily. Like, Halo, I think will still continue to be a thing. I don't think Halo's completely dead yet.
yeah.
As far as like the market demand for more games in the franchise, but it's gonna be just another game out of among many. It's not gonna be like it's not gonna have any kind of singular genre defined status the way it once did.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's pretty much what's gonna happen is Xbox is just gonna fade into irrelevance other than just a few brands like a few franchises like Halo that will still exist but will be more or less kind of like shadows of their former selves.
Mm. I think there's great potential for especially developers like Obsidian who are just releasing solid game after solid game. Even Avowed, which didn't spark the world, you know, but that's still a again B tier product, but it's still a good game. Like there's still enjoyment you can get out of that. And Outer Worlds 2 came out this year. Grounded 2 came out in early access. Like Obsidian's killing it. Like they are so well managed internally. It's just they're owned by this conglomerate that can't manage a studio for the sake of them. You know, like a 343 or a coalition or something like that. Like
Yeah.
State of Decay 3 was revealed like 4 years ago, and we still haven't seen it. And the second one came out in 2018. So it's like, what are you guys doing with these games? Same thing with South of Midnight. That game had a 7-year development, and it came out and it's kind of eh. Same thing with Hellblade 2. Like their mismanagement of these developers and of like accountability in these things is so piss poor that it's like it's just a shame because there's some good devs out there, but it seems like the investments were made. The management of these investments have been poor from what we've seen. So I'm scared that like stuff like Obsidian's going to get closed down. I think the top performers are going to be there. I think you'll still have Obsidian. You'll still have some good games like Clockwork Revolution come out. The Gears E-Day looks cool. You got your Forzas, you got your Halo remakes. We'll see what happens.
Yeah,
but
stuff like that I don't think is
yeah.
going away necessarily,
Yeah.
but the importance of Xbox as a brand itself, I think will fade. So
Yeah.
like stuff like Halo, stuff like Gears, stuff like Obsidian's games, and sure, Bethesda's going to keep pumping out games. id Software is going to keep pumping out games. But like any sort of like I think we're going to get to a place where those things aren't seen as like feathers in Xbox's cap. They'll just be seen as their own thing.
Yeah.
Xbox, I think what Microsoft wanted Xbox to be is like it's kind of the unifying brand that pulls all those other franchises, like stuff that Bethesda makes, stuff that id Software makes, stuff that Obsidian makes, all those different franchises from all those different developers, stuff from 343, which is now Halo Studios.
Yep.
That's what they called it now.
Yeah.
So all those different franchises from all those different developers, they kind of wanted Xbox to be like the brand that unified all those things into a solid whole that could attract attract consumers in greater and greater numbers. And I just don't think they're going to achieve that. I think the Xbox brand itself is going to become irrelevant. And those individual franchises will still exist, but they won't be tied together in a glorious conglomerate the way Microsoft wants them to be.
Yeah, and I think the going back on the other thing, I think the blame is to do with leadership a lot. I was listening to some today and some this week, and they're saying how Satya Nadella. I keep saying that. It's just funny. It's funny. His name's Satya Nadella. It sounds like salty Nutella. I'm just saying. Anyway, it's not my original thought. I stole it. But anyway, salty Nutella, this guy, has kind of run Microsoft a little haggard, I would say, especially with these massive investments, especially with just pursuing all this other stuff. Like everybody on YouTube's like, it's AI, and everybody's like freaking out, and it's just horrible. And I agree, it is. But it's like, what it led us here is poor decision after poor decision after poor decision, especially with middle management and Xbox itself. Like Phil Spencer, I think he's a great guy. I think he's done really great things. I just think the people that have been like, what's it called? Not upgraded. Promoted. The people who've been promoted under his wing are just not good stewards of what they're in charge of. I think Matt Booty over at Xbox has made his name known because he's so successful in how he's managed the Minecraft brand. That's what he was in charge of, and that's why he's gotten to the place he's at. But other stuff like Sarah Bond and all these other people, I'm like, you guys are just kind of just saying for what it is. And the vision of Game Pass, in quotes, was a great idea back in the day. It was a great idea. But I feel like, unfortunately, the management of that idea and most ideas in general at Microsoft kind of faded and will continue to fade. And also, I think what they're doing, David, is they're moving everybody to PC because they want people on like Windows 11, for example. So you're gonna get Xbox games continually on PC, and I think they're gonna try to shift the 30 or so million people on Xbox over to Windows at some point. Through slowly but surely, they're gonna try to do as much as that as possible by making another Xbox that is basically a Windows PC that plays Xbox dev kit made games, so you can use Xbox One era games on your next Xbox and that kind of thing. Because I think that's where they're headed. They're going to try to get on as many people on PC as possible so they can make as much money off those people as well as push Windows. And I think they see other people like Steam potentially. They could come after them. So they want to like lock it down and be the king of the software. And I think that's what they're headed. But we'll see. I'm glad that Valve's doing this. More power to him. Hopefully Gabe Newell stays alive for the next so or so years so we can keep that goodness going.
Oh, yeah.
I'm sure.
How old is he now?
He's in his 60s.
He's got a few good years left in him.
I mean, with that yacht, he's got at least another 80. Let's be real. And who knows with technology these days. But I think we're going to end it there. Thank you, audience, for listening. And thank you for all your feedback and texts and emails and all that stuff. Oh yeah, David, we're just flooded with emails at this moment. Oh yeah. Welcome back. Well, not welcome back. Goodbye. We'll say goodbye. I'm ready to go sleep and maybe play. I'm gonna go play some Celeste. I think it's time for a replay of that game. Anyway, we'll bid you adieu. What do you guys think about all this? Tell us in the comments or emails or whatever you want to contact us, and we'll see you on the flip side. And remember, when that Matt Booty gives you a call and he's like, hey, how you doing? Have you heard of this handheld Xbox that is actually not an Xbox? It's a computer. Oh, wait, what? You got something? Who is that? Your husband? Is that your code name for your husband? Your steam machine? Is that what you got? Is that what his name is? So when he calls you, or tell him to buzz off, and don't forget to snarp Fangle on.
Bye-bye now.